morning, everyone. Everybody hear me okay? Yes. I'm sure you all know who I am. I'm Andre Porter, the graduate professional studies recruiter here at the University of Tennessee Space Institute. And I want to welcome you to the 28th annual Black History Month celebration here at UTSI. If you don't mind, would you please join me in a moment of silence, and then we'll get the program started. Thank you. All right, first up today, as part of the celebration, we have a song. It's Lift Every Voice and Sing with our very own Shannon Birds and Ashley Brooks, and on the piano, PJB. from our Executive Director, Dr. John Schmischer.
One thing we're absolutely celebrating today is a lot of talent in this community. Thank you for a wonderful weekend. And Janet, Patricia, we're very proud of the talent we display when we have a celebration like this. I want to thank you all for joining us as we celebrate the historic accomplishments and the rich contributions to our culture and also reflect on the experience of African Americans. When Patricia asked me to say a few words at the beginning of our ceremony, I embarrassingly realized I knew very little about the history of Black History Month. And I decided it'd be good to do a little research. I'd like to share with you some of the things I think are relevant to the UTSI today. So February's been designated, and by the way, I did a little research on the history.com, the ACP website, has some very interesting stuff there. But we're struggling in all this is the role that Dr. Carter Woodson played in really establishing Black History Month as a celebration of the contributions of a vital part of the American community to everything we do in the United States. So February has been designated Black History Month since 1976, and it's common law. Every year the President of the United States designates February as that by a presidential proclamation. But the efforts to put that in place since 1976 go all the way back to 1975, when Carter Woodson was born to illiterate parents who had been former slaves. And Woodson worked on the family farm, he worked at coal mines in West Virginia, and then at the age of 20, after being self-taught, he got into high school, where he excelled, and discovered a passion for learning. In fact, I'd say that passion probably extended way beyond that to motivate himself to pursue some education. And so after that, you can say the rest is history. So Woodson went on to continue his education, completing a bachelor's in literature from Berea College in Kentucky, dedicating his career to education, getting a master's degree from the University of Chicago, and ultimately becoming the second Black American to earn a PhD from Harvard. He later joined the faculty at Howard University and became ultimately the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences. And it was Woodson's approach to understanding the need for the history of African Americans that led to his establishment of a scholarly journal that is known today as African American History. Now, it would be the understatement of the year to say that Woodson faced resistance to his chronicling the history of African Americans and a lack of appreciation at the time for what was a vital important part of our history. And so his historic and heroic efforts to push and to emphasize that led eventually to the establishment of Black History Weeks in a number of major cities and communities. But he passed away in 1950, and it wasn't until 26 years later in 1976 that the President of the United States, I think it was President Ford at the time, commemorated the history of Black Americans through Black History Month with a national proclamation. Now, what do we get out of all this? I think Dr. Woodson exemplified the role that scholarly leadership can play in archiving, professing, and ultimately transforming the way that we view events that have shaped and continue to shape the world around us. I'm very proud that we're hosting this event here today, and I want to reflect on how the University of Tennessee can continue to play a role in us being transformative for all Tennesseans. So, as members of the academic community, I think we're charged with the idea of continuing Dr. Woodson's efforts, and the mission statement of the University of Tennessee begins with "Serve all Tennesseans." And I hope that the Space Institute will continue to serve all Tennesseans and particularly this community as we continue to strive and create opportunities for the people within the state of Tennessee. So it is an honor to host this meeting today, or to host this event. Dr. Robinson, thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom and experiences with us. And thank you very much for participating in this today.
Tullahoma Utilities Authority Light Tube Fiber Internet offers true gigabit service to our customers. We pride ourselves on speed, but the backbone of that speed is local tech support, unmatched customer service, and professional service technicians. To sign up, call 455-4515 to gain the reassurance of light tube reliability.
Did you know that Tullahoma Utilities Authority has a solar farm right here in Tullahoma? For as little as $4 a month, you can support solar energy production and breathe a little easier, knowing you're taking positive action to reduce your carbon footprint. Call 455-4515 today. Is lag hurting your gaming? Is a weak signal stalling your social media posts? Are constant updates slowing down your productivity? TUA Lighttube has a solution. Enroll in our mesh router service starting at $9.95 a month. With the ability to cover your home with increased signal strength, you can increase productivity and whole home happiness. Start winning today by calling TUA Lighttube customer service at 455-4515.
Never miss your favorite shows again. For an additional $7 a month along with your digital television service, Lighttube Cloud DVR lets you record up to 8 programs at the same time, receive 500 gigabytes of cloud storage, and whole home DVR. Call TUA customer service to add Lighttube Cloud DVR to your digital television service today at 455-4515.
All right, everyone's been welcomed already, so I don't have to say that again, but even for the newcomers, we still say welcome, welcome, welcome. We're glad you're here to help us celebrate today. Okay, my charge is to introduce a wonderful, dear friend, colleague, and his wife, I can't leave her out, Dr. Theotis Robinson and Mrs. Jananda. Did I get it right? Robinson. Let me tell you a little bit about Theotis, and I know your program has a lot of things in there, but there's just a lot to say about him. He's got so many years of experience. This is not just lip service. This is not reading a script. This is stuff that he has lived. Theotis grew up in Knoxville. He was active in the civil rights movement in the 1960s. As a senior at Austin High School, he was a plaintiff in the lawsuit known as Joseph Goss versus the Knoxville Board of Education to desegregate the public school system after attempting to enroll in the fall of 1959 at an all-white East High School. He participated in sit-in demonstrations in downtown Knoxville at F.W. Woolworth, S.H. Kress, Walgreens, W.T. Grant, and other places. He participated in the stand-in demonstrations at downtown movie theaters and the march to protest Knoxville being named an All-American School by Look magazine. In the spring of 1969, he organized an all-white march at a Knoxville City Council meeting to demand passage of an open housing ordinance. In all probability, this was the only all-white pro-civil rights demonstration ever held in the South. He applied to attend undergraduate school at the University of Tennessee in 1960 and was denied admission because of his race. At 18 years old, he and his parents met with the UT president, Andy Holt, to appeal this denial. Under the threat of a lawsuit, the Board of Education, during the meeting on November 18, 1960, changed the policy regarding the admission of Negroes, and Robinson became the first black admitted as an undergraduate student. 2 other black students followed, and the 3 enrolled on January 4th, 1961. I want to applaud him. I'll tell you some more stuff about it, because there's a lot of it. Elected to the Knoxville City Council on November 1969, Robinson served from 1970 to 77, and what he did was fought to make sure African Americans were named to all of the various boards and commissions. I'm skipping down a little bit here. Before his term on City Council, Knoxville's urban renewal programs were defined as total clearance. But with his presence there, with him being a part of that city council, 200 new homes were built. And it looks like, from what I can see here, all of them, those homes became occupied. As a member of the city council, he fought for appropriate funding to build a football stadium at Austin East High School, and he prevailed. You know, you're looking at successes here. It's not always easy. The battle is not always easy, but you stay there, just like Theotis has done. When the city attempted to change the name of Preston Street to Winona in East Knoxville, he changed the street name to Harry Tubman in honor of the African American hero who led hundreds of enslaved people to freedom on the Underground Railroad. During his second term as city council, he was able to visit 15 different African nations. You know, that exposure makes a lot of difference. He was a charter inductee into the University of Tennessee African American Hall of Fame in 1994 and a member of the 1998 Leadership Knoxville class. He is a former panelist on the Political Roundtable aired on WATE TV. He was named one of the 100 most influential Knoxvillians of the 20th century by Metropulse newsletter. So in 2014, he received the David P. Richardson Jr. Nation Builder Award presented by the National Black Caucus of State Legislators. He's received so many various other awards. You know, I could list them all, but you can read some of these things in the bio. And I'm going to drop down to 40 years after his admission to the University of Tennessee. He was appointed Vice President of Equity and Diversity for the University of Tennessee system. He retired in 2014. During his tenure in this position, the enrollment of African American students increased. He initiated the Black Millennium Focus Committee, a UT African American Alumni Committee that hosted an annual Alex Haley Celebrity Golf Tournament and an auction to raise scholarship money for black students across the UT system. He's an occasional contributor and freelance columnist to the editorial pages for the Knoxville News Sentinel USA Today network. At the September Alumni Awards Gala, he was honored as a distinguished alumnus, the highest honor awarded by the University of Tennessee Alumni Board. At its June 2019 meeting of the UT Board of Trustees, he was granted an honorary doctorate from the College of Social Work for his efforts and accomplishments in advancing equality and social justice. The degree was conferred at the December 13, 2019 commencement. In September 2021, a dorm was named and dedicated Robinson Hall at UTK. And I've already mentioned he is married to the fabulous former Janida Davella, is that correct? Is that close? And is the father of 5 children, 4 surviving, 11 grandchildren, and 5 great-grandchildren. So some of you probably know Dr. Robinson, but if you don't, those that do not, I present to you at this time Dr. Theotis Robinson Jr.
I have a mic here. I don't know that I need this one down on my side. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'm an old Baptist. I think we can do better than that. That's much better, much better. So Patricia was talking about some of the experiences that I have lived in my life. And there's so many nuances behind so much of that. I have to mention one. She mentioned that I was involved in a demonstration when Look magazine had decided to name Knoxville as an all-American city. Many of us had problems with that title or recognition being given to Knoxville, given its racial history and its current practices. And we felt an absolute necessity to protest that. We staged a march down to the ceremony. The mayor of Knoxville was really happy that the city was being so recognized. But as I said, we had a problem with that. Many members, both black and white, had problems with that whole idea of an all-American city. And so as we were marching down to the Coliseum, we had a single file procession of about 50 people. And we spaced it about 6 feet apart, 6 to 10 feet apart, to make it look like it was bigger than what it actually was. I was about the fourth person in the line, and when I got to the bottom of the hill, the police took my sign, because it had 25 hospital beds for 25,000 African Americans in all-American city. They took that and told me that I was under arrest. But being fourth in the line, and the line extended all the way back to that exit sign in the far corner, the focus shifted from where I was toward the back of the line. A crowd had gathered across the street because the Coliseum was built in a black neighborhood. As a matter of fact, my family was depossessed in order to build the Coliseum during an urban renewal program. But as the attention shifted, I realized that the attention had shifted and there was a big crowd. I sort of wandered over to the edge of the curb and I looked around and nobody was paying any attention. So I crossed the street and I was in the crowd and I did not go to jail that night. Many of my friends and colleagues did, but my parents operated a restaurant, so what we did was to prepare food and took it down to the jail and passed it through the bars of the jailhouse so they had something to eat. But that's one of those little side stories that color the experiences that an individual may have had in his or her lives. Patricia mentioned that I applied to the University of Tennessee for admission to the undergraduate school. And there's a story behind that. I graduated from high school in May of 1960. I had a scholarship to attend Knoxville College that would pay for a good portion of my tuition. It was great. And during the course of the sittings, which I was involved in on a daily basis, after 6 weeks in, with no movement toward a resolution of this problem of segregation, of denial, really, of services, because these stores welcomed dollars being spent by black patrons in every department except the lunch counter. Our money was green when it came down to buying mops and brooms and candles or toy guns or whatever it happened to be. But we couldn't get a hamburger and a Coca-Cola at the lunch counter. So the organization that was sponsoring the sit-in movement in Knoxville took out an ad in the Sunday News Sentinel in July of 1960, listing about 15 different things that were wrong in Knoxville, Tennessee, later to be called an all-American city. One of those was that we had 4 hospitals in Knoxville at the time. There was Baptist Hospital, clearly affiliated with the Baptist Church. There was St. Mary's Hospital, clearly affiliated with the Catholic Church. And there was Fort Sanders, which was affiliated with the Presbyterian Church. None of these 3 church-related hospitals accepted black patients on any basis. I could have been standing in front of Baptist Hospital and suffered a massive heart attack. I would have had to be transported to UT Hospital and there on a segregated basis. This was the situation in Knoxville. There was one of the other items in the list was that the University of Tennessee Undergraduate School did not accept, quote, Negroes in the program. The graduate school and the law school had been desegregated in 1951-52 as a result of a lawsuit which they won in district court, and it was upheld in the appeals court, 6th Circuit in Cincinnati, but it did not affect the undergraduate school. So I sat down that very Sunday night when this information was in this advertisement in the Sentinel and wrote a letter of application to the University of Tennessee for admission. I did not mention what high school that I had graduated from because the school system was segregated. And so to mention that I went to Austin High was a dead giveaway that I was a black person. My family lived much closer to East High than it did to Austin High, and our neighbors on both sides were white. But subsequently, I got a letter in the mail from UT saying, we're sorry, but we do not accept Negroes into the undergraduate program. Well, there was nothing in my letter that indicated race at all. So clearly they were screening. They knew somebody was going to have the audaciousness to test this restriction. That led to meetings, and subsequently I enrolled at UT, and I've seen the black population in undergraduate school just grow in the aftermath. I take great pride when I'm on campus and encounter young black students who have come in to the university. But as time moved on, I think there has grown a recognition that diversity in higher education is an important element in the education of our students. A lot of politicians on the right like to play diversity as some zero-sum game. If someone is advancing here, somebody else is losing on the other side, where nothing could be further from the truth. An education earned in a diverse environment allows students who never went to school with people who do not look like them, who come from a different culture, and this works both ways, all different kinds of ways. A black kid coming from the heart of Memphis, chances are, never went to school with white students. Similarly, a white student from Union County in East Tennessee, which is like 99% white, never had that kind of experience. But what they're going to do when they finish their degree program is to enter the workforce, the labor market, which is global in terms of its in terms of his sensitivities. So they learn in a diverse learning environment to know and understand people from different backgrounds than what they are. And this better equips all of our students who graduate and go on to careers with greater skills, greater sensitivity, greater understanding of people, and hones the capacity for people from diverse backgrounds to work together for a common goal. It always struck me that the motto of the United States is E pluribus unum, from many, one. That's an asset that our nation has that most nations do not share. But when you're competing in a global marketplace, that becomes very, very important. So the diversity in college, in the learning environment, is really value added to one's educational experience and to one's degree, whatever that degree happens to be in. Diversity in higher education, though, is not the only place where diversity has a great impact. Several years ago, 20-some years ago, the business community in Knoxville, the political class in Knoxville, and higher education brought in two speakers to talk about the value of diversity and what it's all about. One speaker was a man named Roosevelt Thomas, who was a native of Chattanooga, not that far down the road. He wrote a book that is really worth reading, but I'll give you a synopsis of it. It's called The Giraffe House. It's a fable. And it talks about the giraffe and the elephant. The giraffe was a leading, outstanding member of his community. Pardon me, I have COPD and lung experiences, or what they are sometimes with me. The community had decided that they wanted to build a play facility for all the kids in the neighborhood. And the giraffe was charged with the responsibility of assembling the workers who were going to do this. And he was wondering, how in the world am I going to get this project done? When he noticed this elephant going by, and he knew him from people commenting on the elephant, that he was so dependable, his work was excellent, he paid attention to detail, he was strong, he could lend something to the workforce. And so he decided he would invite the elephant into his home. Well, the giraffe had built a house for his family. It had narrow doorways, high ceilings. The weight-bearing capacity was that for a giraffe. And so the elephant said, when the giraffe extended the invitation to him to come in, he had often noticed this house and how splendid the design was and the architecture in this house was. And he always had wanted to see the inside of it. So he gladly accepted this invitation to be able to go in and see for himself. He started through the doorway, which was constructed for a giraffe, and immediately found himself stuck in the frame of the door. And the giraffe encouraged him to come on in, so he decided to just kind of lunge forward and get through, took out the whole doorway, just collapsed it. And he's standing there, oh my goodness, what have I done here? About that time, the giraffe, Mrs. Giraffe, answered a phone call, and her husband needed to go upstairs to answer the call. And he went upstairs, and then the elephant was still down on the ground floor. And something happened with the elephant. He decided he needed to let the giraffe know, so he started up the staircase. Now you can imagine a staircase designed for the weight of a giraffe is not the same as what's necessary for an elephant to transcend. He immediately, after 2 steps, just collapsed the whole stairwell. Oh my goodness, he was saying. Well, when the giraffe came down and saw all of this demolition that was going on in his home, he said, "What have you done? What have you done to my home?" The point of the fable is, institutions that are constructed for one group of people might not be an easy fit for another group of people given their culture and their background. So it's incumbent upon higher educational institutions to look at those kinds of things. I remember at another campus, not this campus, within the UT system, this was long after desegregation and people were graduating from class. Amongst the black community, Greek life is important. Fraternities and sororities are really important within this community. And often you would find and you will find at graduation, black Greeks, sorority members, fraternity members, will wear shawls depicting their particular sorority or fraternity. Well, this particular institution did not want to allow that because it was not in keeping with what the giraffe had constructed in the first place. You know, that's a bad place to be in, and the worst kind of hill that you can choose to die. To insist that there can be no change within this institution, but we are welcoming. So that story about the giraffe house has lots of meanings for higher education. But diversity in higher education is not the only place where diversity is important within our lives. The other speaker in Knoxville was a man who had been president and CEO of Levi Strauss. And so he told this story about the importance of diversity within the workforce. He commented that Levi Strauss, among Fortune 500 companies, was in the top 5, not 5%, but the top 5 companies as far as the diversity within his workforce. But that diversity existed from the middle management level down. It did not exist in upper management, which was all white men of a certain age. As a result, Levi Strauss never saw the hip-hop generation coming. And so they sat on the sidelines and they watched Tommy Hilfiger eat their lunch. They are yet to regain the market share that they lost because of this blind spot within the leadership of the corporation. Diversity is not about doing the right thing. Diversity is all about the economic bottom line, growing the pie so that the slices are bigger. Diversity goes to the economic, and that's the argument I always make. We're not talking about doing the right thing. We're talking about economic survival for everybody. You know, I was struck years ago when George Herbert Walker Bush was president, and the Commerce Department had determined that United States corporations, auto manufacturers, were not getting their fair share of the market in Japan. And so Bush was on a visit, a state visit to Japan, arguing. This was a man who just railed against quotas. You can't have quotas. Nobody's talking about quotas, but what we're talking about is how do you open up channels of opportunity for people to rise and have expanded gateways to better lives and better careers. But here was George Bush in Japan basically arguing that American automakers, there should be a quota for Japan to accept American manufactured cars and trucks for the Japanese marketplace. And the thought that struck me, if we did a better job back here at home, because the income disparities between the different races in our country, especially between white community and the black and brown communities, is striking. It's a large gap. If we did a better job of closing that kind of economic gap, you would have a better market for American manufactured cars and trucks right here at home. You would not have to go over there, Mr. Bush, to plead with them to set some quotas for imported American manufactured cars. But trying to break through certain mindsets and get past certain biases is a struggle. It has always been. When I was 18 years old, I thought the whole issue of racism within our society would be over in 25 years, which would have meant that by the time I reached 43, somewhere along in there, that all of that stuff would be in the past. No, it is not in the past. It's still here daily. It's still a constant reminder. I was having lunch just yesterday with some of my high school classmates. One of my classmates who I grew up with, we went to kindergarten together. He was my catcher when I pitched in Little League. He now lives in Los Angeles, has been very successful. But he talked about yesterday at lunch with several of our classmates, the times that he has been stopped by the police there in Los Angeles, and what those interactions were like, where he was told to get on his knees with his hands behind his head for no good reason at all. So these problems are still endemic within our society. It's a struggle to get us past that. But I look at what's going on now, much of the debate across the country, you see it really coming out of Florida with Governor DeSantis, who does not want to teach actual, factual American history. How do you not educate all of our kids, black, white, brown, Asian, Native, how do you not educate them about our nation's past? It has not been just a glorious thing from the founding of the nation when Thomas Jefferson wrote that all men are created equal while he owned slaves. We have to recognize this and know this and understand this in order to move forward. It is important to know where you've come from as you chart your course for where we want to go. That's just critical in terms of an educational experience. But DeSantis talks about he does not want lessons taught that make kids uncomfortable. What he really means is he doesn't want lessons taught that make him uncomfortable. Now, I remember when he was running for governor the first time, he was running against Andrew Gillum, and they were having a debate. And it had gotten a little heated over the whole issue of race. And apparently, DeSantis said that you accused me of being a racist. And Gillum responded, no, I'm not saying that you're a racist. I'm just saying that racists think you are a racist. Which I thought was a really good comeback. It painted the picture very clearly of what Mr. DeSantis was and is, remains. So, history has to be taught accurately. I came across a story several months ago, and I wrote a column about it in the Sentinel. This writer was talking about the Virginia public schools and the textbook that they used back in the 50s, where there's so many people on the right who want to go back to the 50s at least, if not further back, and really do want to go further back. But in this particular history book, this was in secondary education in the state of Virginia, they talked about slavery. And they wrote how kind and benevolent the plantation owners were, to the point that all slaves were provided, all the male slaves were provided 2 winter suits and 2 summer suits and 4 pairs of shoes each year. Really? Really? I don't think so. Not based on what I've seen in history, but this was what was being taught. And that's what a lot of folk want to have taught today, that slaves, enslaved people were happy, that they were protected. No, they weren't. All people yearn for freedom. I don't care who they are, where on the planet they come from. All people yearn to be free. That's what we see going on over there in Ukraine now. The Ukrainian people, they want to be free. And the oppressors don't want that. They want to control. So, with that in mind, and as I come to a close, there is a challenge for all of us. I did not get to where I am today without standing on the shoulders of people who came before me, following in the footsteps of those who went before me. Benjamin Banneker is one, my name comes to mind, but the Frederick Douglasses, the Martin Luther Kings, the Nat Turners, the Malcolm X's, the Harriet Tubmans. I stand on their shoulders. I stood on their shoulders as I was coming up, learning from them and what they were doing and following their lead toward a better tomorrow. And now, what is incumbent upon all of us is to leave footsteps behind us, to develop those shoulders through our careers, to lead lives, ethical lives, not succumb to biases, not to go out here and claim that there's such a thing as an alternate fact. Facts are facts. Facts are very stubborn things, John Adams wrote. No matter how you test them, they remain facts. 2 + 2 will always be 4. Not 3, not 5, but 4, and that's a fact. There's no alternative to that. So it's incumbent upon us to lead principled lives and to be role models for those who come behind us in our careers and our lives, in whatever it is that we are doing. Being understanding of the other, being open to new ideas and new ways of looking at things. There's always that possibility that something was misperceived. I guess one of the best examples of that is Plessy versus Ferguson in the Supreme Court. There was a case out of New Orleans back in the 1800s when this black person got on a streetcar there in New Orleans and sat toward the front of the streetcar and was told he had to move to the back. And he was arrested. He contested it in court and ended up in the Supreme Court, and they came down with the ruling separate but equal is constitutional. Well, first of all, separate but equal. It was never equal. I went to school where I got passed down books from white schools that had been discarded with pages missing and notes written in there and Sam loves Judy and all this kind of mess in my textbook. 2 Bunsen burners in my chemistry class. Where was the equal? We were certainly separate, but there was no equal involved in that situation. And so in 1954, the Supreme Court considered Brown versus Board of Education, and they overturned Plessy versus Ferguson. This equal, they found, is not constitutional. So there are new ways that we have to be open to viewing things that have happened in the past, given new information, new data, new perspectives on things. so that we leave behind those footsteps, we grow those shoulders, that those generations coming behind us can follow and stand upon to advance our nation toward that goal that we all want to see for life here in this country. I thank you. I will take 2 or 3 questions if there are any, because I always love feedback coming from a group of people who have been gracious enough to sit and hear me pontificate for a period of time. Any questions? As one of my professors at UT used to say, any questions? Any comments? Any rude remarks? I thank you.
Did you know that Tullahoma Utilities Authority has a solar farm right here in Tullahoma? For as little as $4 a month, you can support solar energy production and breathe a little easier, knowing you're taking positive action to reduce your carbon footprint. Call 455-4515 today.
Tullahoma Utilities Authority Light Tube Fiber Internet offers true gigabit service to our customers. We pride ourselves on speed, but the backbone of that speed is local tech support, unmatched customer service, and professional service technicians. To sign up, call 455-4515 to gain the reassurance of light tube reliability.
Is lag hurting your gaming? Is a weak signal stalling your social media posts? Are constant updates slowing down your productivity? TUA Lighttube has a solution. Enroll in our mesh router service starting at $9.95 a month. With the ability to cover your home with increased signal strength, you can increase productivity and whole home happiness. Start winning today by calling TUA Lighttube customer service at 455-4515.
What a wonderful, wonderful sharing of life experience. He doesn't have to make it up, he's living. So we're just so glad to hear from Dr. Robinson today. Let's give him another hand. Okay, at this time, Dr. Robinson, if you'll come and stand with Dr. Smith and I with a presentation for you.
These tickets on the picture going around.
If we have them, sure.
Now, see, long time.
Absolutely. So University of Tennessee Space Institute, to Dr. Theotis Jr., UT Distinguished Alumni, former Vice President of Equity and Diversity in UT System, who's retired. Thank you for presenting the 20th Annual Black History Month celebration. And it's got today's date on it. It's a beautiful clock.
Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to tell a few folks thank you, and Dr. Smith is going to close us out. Just a second. Okay. So we want to thank everybody that's here today. Thank you for coming and celebrating with this special occasion with us today. And I want to, on the back of the programs, there's a list of people. I know you can read them, but I really want to just call them out. Thank you to, let's see, our special guest, Dr. Theotis Robinson, We want to thank our executive director, Dr. John Smisher, Mr. Andre Porter. We want to thank you for moderating the program today, to Shannon Burks for leading, and Ashley Brooks for leading us in music, and that wonderful selection by Miss Ashley Brooks, to Laura Horton. I won't leave anybody out, to Megan Morris.
Patricia Delta Burks.
Thank you. To the business office, to the dining hall, to the finance department. These are all people that helped us pull this together. We can't do these things alone. Can't leave out human resources and information technology at its finest, sitting on the front row. And to all the UTSI family, we thank you, we appreciate you, we celebrate you. We want you to stay with us and have refreshments. We have a very nice reception in the lobby, and you won't even have to go somewhere and buy lunch. There's plenty of stuff to eat. Dr. Smith, our executive director, is going to close us out, and we'll go eat.
Honestly, I'm not quite sure what I'm supposed to say after that. All I want to say is thank you so much, Dr. Robinson, for being here. Sir, your powerful experiences, exemplary role model. Thank you for gracing us with your presence today. And for those of you in our community who are able to join us today, thank you for joining us at UT's campus in our region. And we very much appreciate being able to host this event for our entire community today. I do want to thank Patricia and her entire team, and everyone who you mentioned, our outstanding musicians, everyone who did logistics. Thank you so much, and let's enjoy the rest of the celebration.
Thank you.